Welcome to The Lounge, the Her Lounge, that is, where we share laughter, life experiences, and heart to heart dialogue. I am Lynn.
I'm Juna.
I'm Pauletta.
I'm Queasy. And we are
Your four best new girlfriends.
Happy Thursday! Listen, baby, we is back.
We back.
We
Bike.
are back for
We bike.
season 2 of the Her
Y'all, we got a
Lounge.
season 2.
We got a season 2.
Happy
so crazy.
Thursday. Y'all already know this is the place where we connect you with laughter, life experiences, and heart-to-heart dialogue. And look, let me tell y'all something. Baby, we about to start the season on heavy.
When I say
Not
so
heavy. You know, everybody knows, even though our show is not, religious, y'all all know that we are all believers.
Right.
And so today we're going to be tackling such an intricate, powerful, and necessary discussion about the state of the church. So we're going to be calling this one the 2024 State of the Church Address. Y'all don't see us?
Yep.
Y'all don't see us. Y'all don't see us. Y'all
Right.
don't see us. And so Queasy,
church.
Queasy is our stat girl. She our numbers because, Jay-Z said numbers don't lie.
Don't lie.
So, come on, Queasy, set us up. Set us up.
Okay, here we go. Churchtrack.com says Lifeway found that 97% of churches were live streaming their services since 2020.
Yeah, COVID.
But here is the thing that really got me that may set us up for where we going. They said that 2024 is the year for church live stream gut check. They're saying, do you still have a reason to be live? Do you have people that are actually benefiting from your live? They say, who is watching? Is it just members when they're sick or out of town and can't attend in person? Or are you actually reaching other people through your live? Here's some other statistics that we received.
That's good.
Some of the key.
Hold on. Can we pause right
Yeah,
there?
let's
for just a
pause.
second?
Let's pause.
I want to know, what data are they pulling to assess this information? That's interesting.
That's a
I
great
wanna know.
question.
That's a lot.
First of all,
to
if
look
you
at.
just get on Facebook, I don't do this, but I'm just saying, you just get on Facebook on Sundays evenings and just scroll services, you'll see that some folks don't need to be live.
So
Oh,
true.
yeah, well, that
And I mean, we have had a couple of lives at our church that I've deleted because
Oh, yeah.
something may not have sounded right or it
Got
wasn't
it,
quality.
right.
So to me, if you haven't risen to the level of a better quality,
I got you. Right.
don't need to be on there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, it's
That's
not just
so
a matter of holding up a video.
And then the only people that's on your live is the people that's in the service.
Right.
And they on the live while they sit in the
yeah.
service. That happens. You
It
have people
does.
who get on live while they in the service. So I mean, I'm not trying to be funny.
Right.
But you're right,
I'm just
though.
being
You're right,
real.
though. For
You
real.
know what I
real.
mean?
That's
And
real.
I'm so committed to it being excellent and being worth leaving up there that if it ain't, I'm gonna take it down.
gonna take it
down.
Yeah.
I got you.
They're saying that, one of the suggestions that I read was that some churches maybe should do like audio only and not use like Facebook or Instagram. If you have a smaller audience that you're just trying to get it to, that maybe, because you got to think about when you're on Facebook, Instagram, all eyes are on you.
Yeah.
Right? So they say it's time to reevaluate because we did what we had to do during COVID.
And then you end
But
up
now
on
it's
church
time.
code.
Like, that's, wow.
Isn't that big?
That makes
I thought
you-
that was really good. Yeah.
Wow.
So it says 20% of Americans attend church every week. But here's the part that got me. 57% of Americans seldom ever go to any religious service. So that's why a lot of people are trying to push
What's the percentage?
57%.
That's more than half.
That's a
That's
lot.
more than half. And here's, we've been talking about millennials a lot lately. It says 39% of millennials report attending church on a regular basis. But the key statistic is 40% of millennials are not affiliated with a religious church. And they went on to try to come up with reasons. But I think that's going to kind of open the door for what we're about to talk about. what is the state of the church? Why are people running? Why are people still coming? You know, there's positive, there's negative to both ends of this, but I do feel like we're at a point now where it's time to reevaluate.
Yeah, I think it's time to reevaluate church as we know it, period.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I know someone had released a word, via social media, I think earlier this year, the latter part of last year, and he said that really a lot of churches really need to consider consolidating. He was just like, but the problem is everybody wants to be the head. Because he was just like, you got so many churches in the same city, and probably only about 2 or 3 of them, really experience. He was talking like churches in the same zip code, experiencing growth for real.
Right.
And you got 30 others who 5, 10, 20 people. He was just like, if we would drop our egos and come together and collaborate, a lot of churches, you would see more benefits, because what one church don't have, another may have, and it just could build. But and I thought about that. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But I think the state of the church is now is this is what I think the problem is that if you are called to pastor, and this is to me the huge, I would say the telltale sign of a pastor, you're going to have a vision. If you're a pastor and you don't have no vision, or if you've been pastoring for a very long time and nothing's fresh came out of you in the last 5 years, you may be nearing to the end of your pastoral years. And it may be time for you to be looking for a successor. And I think another mistake that churches make is, why does all of our pastors have to die out? We have got to learn how to leave on top.
Yes. Yes.
We have got to learn how to leave on top. We have got to learn how to pass the baton while we still on top, and stop passing the next generation dead babies or babies that's on life support. We need to stop that. Well, somebody got to come in and resurrect. Because you didn't know when your era or your moment was over. Because I don't care how good you are, how anointed you are, how oily you are, every great thing comes to an end.
That's true.
And you got to know when your end is. I love to use the analogy of Bishop Paul Morton, who's over the Full Gospel Fellowship. I mean, I think he is an amazing example, a picture of when it's time to let it go. And he let it go while he was on top. He let it go while he still got it. You know what I'm saying? While he's still relevant. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And he'll forever be honored for what he started. And I think that the way he did it is the way it's to be done. Even I.V. Hilliard. You know what I'm saying? Still you on top. Bishop Jakes, passing Woman Dalu while he's still packing out stadiums. It's just, it's the sensible thing to do.
It really is.
And I think a lot of it is because you got a lot of people that's pastoring that probably is not called to pastor. You got a lot of people that's pastoring, their season is over with pastoring. You got a lot of people that pastored and started something out of anger or out of the wrong spirit, or because they was hurt over here or mad over here. And so it's so many different reasons, why the church is where it is. And I understand, like you have people who are dogging pastors out because they're trying creative, innovative ways to pull in young people or whatever. One thing you never see me doing, and you never will see me do, I'm not getting in on a discussion about what another pastor do at their church. And it's always, to me, the pastors who ain't doing nothing that got so much to say.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not that I'm in agreement. I'm just saying, manage what you got. Let us see what you manage well, what you have.
I think it also goes back to what you were saying about vision, right? How can you say that there's something wrong with what somebody else is doing if that's the vision that they have? If that's the vision that God has given them, right? Who are we? Who are me, right? To say
for real.
To say that this is wrong or this isn't right or they need to do this or they should do that when it's really not my vision. And what that and in those instances, going back to what you were saying, not necessarily saying you agree with it, it just means I'm not called to it, right?
Right.
That's just not.
And I'm not going to put my mouth on
I'm not
it.
going to put my mouth on it.
Right. You know, I'm going to leave that on because this is what people don't realize. The biggest critics of Christ were church people.
Synagogue leaders.
And a lot of times he was criticized for the crowd he was hanging around.
Yep. Most of the time.
Right.
And the scriptures that we quote from the prophets that we quote them from, if they were modern day, we wouldn't even be dealing with them and hanging out with them.
Wow.
Paul was a murderer. Paul was a contract killer.
Right.
Paul
Whole
was
assassin out here.
a
Mr.
paying
Smith.
hitmen.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
But you quick to quote everything he say. Think about this now.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? David was an adulterer. You know what I mean? David was a murderer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right? And so, you know, we don't realize that what we would have supported, we wouldn't support if that was modern day.
Today.
You know what I mean? Because we'll be saying, why Jesus over there
Right.
with them?
Right.
Why Jesus at this place? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because he did not do what they were doing,
Right.
which is why he was criticized.
Absolutely.
Because what he brought on the scene was fresh. It was new. It wasn't traditional.
Yes.
And it was a gospel that wasn't just for one sect.
It
of
wasn't
people.
exclusive.
It was set up to be an inclusive.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think that's
Right?
what's killing the church tradition. Like I have a student of mine. I have a couple of students, but I have a student of mine who has been attending our church, and she's just like, oh my God, like I love it. It's like vibrant. It's just, you know. She's like last Sunday, she was like, okay, it was a lot, Miss Brown, but like I enjoyed service, but the first time, because folks speaking in tongue and prayer, and she's just like, hey, I don't know what he's saying. But the first time she came, I think Lynn had on jeans, and she was like, is that okay? Because at her church, which is extremely traditional, you can't wear jeans to church, And so I was like, but what I need you to understand is when you get to heaven, God is not going to say, hey, I saw you wore some sneakers and jeans to church. He's not concerned about that.
No, he's not.
He's concerned about your relationship and your heart. I said, so you're telling me I can have the purest of heart, I could do everything nice, everything good, but if I wear jeans, I'm going to hell? She was like, what? No.
Right.
No. I
Make
said,
it make
you
sense.
think
Make
right.
sense.
I'm like, you think all the men that are wearing suits and all the women that are wearing white and black on certain Sundays, you think they perfect?
Yeah.
And she was like,
That's what they think.
no. I was like, so your attire doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
It's what's on the inside.
On the inside.
I said, now you came to the church because of me, because there was something magnetic in me. And I never dress up.
Right.
Ever in school. So surely.
Now I'm a firm believer when we talk about. I know this is not what we're going, but what you touched on. I'm a firm believer of if I'm not. I think about where I'm going. Right. I'm not wearing a 3-piece suit to the beach. Right.
Right.
I'm not wearing.
Talk to me.
I'm not wearing flip-flops to an interview, right?
Right.
So I'm in keeping with the occasion.
Right.
That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I ain't never, unless it's like a maxi dress, I ain't never wearing nothing all the way down like that, and I ain't doing it. I just ain't doing that.
Right.
Granted, that happens in religion, certain religions or whatever, but I do believe that there is appropriate attire.
I agree.
For
Yeah.
church, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not staunch where it got to be, okay, this,
Yeah. Right.
if it don't hit your knee, you going to hell.
Right.
To me, that's where the
I agree with you.
extremes
And I'm
come
going
in
to tell
at.
you
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Lynn had to pull my coattail once because I was doing communion. And I, like TPC, we super lax.
laid back,
So I did communion in jeans. And she was like, hey, Don't let that happen again. I say, but I thought we was non-traditional,
We are.
She was like,
You know
hey,
what I'm saying?
but hey,
it has
you
to
know,
be a standard.
And I mean, and it was, I was like, I bet you next time, I had a whole,
And it's
you know what I'm saying?
It's befitting. Did you just say
Right.
befitting?
It's befitting.
I ain't say you had to have on a dress,
Right.
or you had to be in full garb.
Right.
But I mean, don't come up there in no carpenter jeans
Right.
either. You know what I'm saying? Come on now.
Right,
Like
right.
you ran all the way out.
Right.
You know? But this is a thing, and Junior, you hit on this. You were saying, I don't think it's a dress code, but I think there is a standard. But this is what I believe, and this is why we've changed our slogan from coming to church till I come to change. Because I believe if you're
What
really,
is it set up?
we don't come to church, we come to change. Because what is the point of going to church if you ain't changing?
Right.
Come on.
Right?
Right.
And so my thing is this, there's no way
That'll preach.
if you're really coming to the church that God has assigned you to.
That's key
that
right
you
there.
gonna stay the same.
That you gonna stay the same.
Because there's
Right.
gonna become, because she said we're not relationship. When you begin to build your relationship,
Right.
there are some things you're gonna become personally convicted by that you weren't before.
Right.
And ain't
Absolutely.
nobody gonna have to say nothing to you about it.
Yeah.
It's just gonna organically
Happen.
happen as you build your relationship,
true.
right? And so I think that's what it is we push religion more than we push relationship. Hence,
Absolutely.
this lady comes, you know what I'm saying? And they talking about Jesus. Why you talking to her? Why you dealing with her? She began to write in the ground.
on. Yep.
And as she wrote in the ground, one by one, people began to disappear. And so many theologians use so many things that they say, oh, she was writing phone
Jesus
numbers.
was writing, right.
Or
Jesus
she
was
was
writing
writing
in there, right.
names or addresses or
Right.
whatever it was. Jesus was basically saying, you caught up in religion, but she found relationship.
There you
Right.
go.
Right? And relationship causes me to push past what everybody in the crowd may be thinking about me. And I'm trying to get to the person that really should be the object of my affection, which is Christ.
There
Right.
you go.
Right?
Right.
And so, but Quincy, you grew up in church.
Yeah.
Right? You grew up in church. And hence probably I think all of us have.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You grew up in church, but I think you were the only, no, that's not true. You
Y'all
a
can see the
PK,
church.
yeah.
Y'all
A
can see
PK.
Pastor's
Born on the
kid.
third.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Born under
well, your
Pontius
dad was
Pilate.
or mom was a pastor.
Yeah. So that's another level
That's
of it.
it.
Y'all done
Nah.
experienced something else.
My mom
Does
was
the
the
church
preacher.
look like or looks like now what you think church should or would look like?
Perspective is everything, and that's why it's hard for me to answer that, which led me to the next thing. Did church back then really resemble what the original intent was? Like, do we really know? Have we? And that goes back to what you were saying, relationship. The only way to know his intent is to have relationship with him, but we based it on rules, principles, like we put more emphasis, like you said, on that than we did relationship. One thing I will say is that I was talking to my old pastor from when I was like 7 years old the other day, and I was telling him, I said, I appreciate that you didn't actually understand all of the rules and everything that went with church, but you genuinely just loved him. It was a pureness, and that's what was birthed in me, is that I just love God. I didn't, you know what I'm saying? But then there was so much over my head that made me so
Green.
not just green, but like so uptight.
Oh, okay.
When I say
Well, you think you was self-righteous?
Do you think religion, do you think the religious part of it created a cage?
oh, absolutely. It absolutely did. But here's the thing, like, when I came out the cage, I don't really think I knew how to fly. So, there
Wow.
was relationship with him, and it's almost like this is how I explain my process. It has been like an unraveling, unpeeling, like an unlearning. There's so much that I attached to being in relationship with him that really had nothing to do with him, right? So it has been like, every time I think I get over one hurdle, something else got to unpeel. It's like, okay, Lord,
onion.
how much
I got to
more?
peel this off.
layers
Yes, but
back.
that's the process of getting closer to him, and that's why I can't focus on anybody else.
Right,
Because
right.
it's constantly something about me. He's
That
showing me
is so
me.
good.
Right, so that, and I think that's why so many people are running, because nobody really knows what the center is. Nobody really knows what's important, because we've just focused so much on other people. You know, we never can focus on ourselves. You ain't doing that right. You going to hell, blah, blah, blah. No. What about you? And if you spend time on you, you'll have less time to
and
create.
more grace.
More
Yeah,
grace.
right.
That's the
More
problem.
grace, because the closer you get to him, the more
more
he's
you
going to
realize.
reveal about you.
Yes.
That's going to make you have more
Right.
grace
Yes.
for other people.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's hard for me to kind of answer that question. I think the closer I get to him, the more I realize a lot that I thought mattered didn't. You know, he wants my heart. He wants our hearts. And so I would say, I don't think anybody really knows, you know. I mean, I don't think we're getting closer to it. Now I see people who are after his heart. And it's bringing more people, you know, they thirsty, they're hungry for it. They're like, I ain't never seen nothing like this before. Like, you really just want God. And sometimes we can get so busy doing church, and that's what my failure was. I did church, but I wasn't on the inside what I needed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did church for so long that I knew how to do it. That I didn't know that on the inside, I lost my why. You know, like, why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? And so God was like, I'm about to show you. I'm going to take you back. There's a level of, what is it? There's time that you got to spend with him to get back to the why and the purpose, so it will draw other people. And when you come closer to him, more people will come, because they like, that's what my heart been saying and I haven't been able to communicate. When you get back to that place, so all that unraveling was needed, because I don't even think what I knew back then was what he intended.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I feel like back then, well, I grew up in church as well, but I grew up in leadership in church. Like, I was 11 and 12 years old, leading adult choirs, like leading them.
Wow.
And having to deal with being the child, but telling adults what to do. And then being confronted by you're a child, you don't tell me what to do, you stay in a child place. When y'all get up there messing up singing, then y'all calling me that. But still, that's a little residue that's left over. That's a little healing, right?
Let that be noted.
But growing up in ministry, involved in leadership, I saw a lot. And it taught me we really don't know how to love.
Ooh.
I discovered that early on, that was what was missing.
A pure love.
Agape. We don't know how to. The thing that he told us to do, we didn't want to do that, right?
Oh.
We want to do everything else. We want to get busy doing the stuff of the church and the activities that we create our services around. We get caught up in that, right? But the very thing that he told us to do, which was to love, that's what was missing, and that's, I believe, what is still missing in some places. I think we're kind of getting. I think it's like, you've been missing it for so long, and you're like, wait a minute, what is this? So let's figure this out. Let's figure out what it really means to love the way God tells us to love, right? And so you have some ministries, I'll say, man, y'all church is one of the churches that I can say, from my experience, I don't know about nobody else, from my experience, that is intentional about love walk, intentional about how you care for people, how you extend grace. You still correct, but you do so in love. You do so with the goal in mind, right? Change. How can we modify this behavior? And so I remember about a couple of years ago when I got really sick, and I was like laying on my back and Holy Spirit spoke to me and said that you really don't believe that the change happens by way of me. What the scripture says is, one person plants, somebody else waters.
Right.
But the increase,
Comes from him.
Right.
right? The growth, that comes from him. It's up to us to do what he said do so that he can increase, so that he can change, so that miracle signs and wonders can follow.
Yeah.
Right? And so that, I believe that's the component that's missing from then and now. From church as a whole, it's that love. It's that love component.
I totally agree. Pauletta, like, in all that we're saying, do you think the church needs a reset? Because you like our resident counselor, right? Do you think the church needs reset? And if it does, what does that even look like?
Yeah, I definitely think the church needs a reset. I mean, 100%, because the culture of people out there are so different than what it was back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I've been to some churches, I'm talking about recently, when I step in, I'm stepping back into the 60s.
Wow.
And so, and I'm talking about like the mindset of the people, the physical building, you know what I'm saying? And so it's gonna take a breaking of the ego of the pastors to say, help.
Yeah.
Help, because you'll have some pastors that'll just keep going and be like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it's supposed to be. I'm an educator, and the way I taught the way I taught before COVID is not the way that I'm teaching now. I had to change. And I'm telling you that, like, when I look at some of the classrooms that are having behavioral issues, it's because the teacher doesn't want to change.
Wow.
The teacher's still teaching as if he or she was in that red schoolhouse. And you can't do that. These are not the children that we have. These are not the adults. You have adults that don't have attention span. So if you up there for an hour and 45 minutes preaching, you done lost them within the first 15, 20 minutes. So I got to hit you the first 15, 20 minutes and to be like, all right, may the Lord watch between me. I mean, for real.
True.
Everybody is on their phones, so you're going to have to think forward. Yeah. But you can't still think as if Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass were sitting in your congregation. And as long as you think that way, I mean, I'm just saying, as long as you think that way, you're not going to grab the people that you want. Millennials and teens are leaving the church in droves.
Yeah.
And it's because they can't identify with the pastor.
Wow.
The music will be good, but then the pastor get up and everything will fall flat. Everything is judgment, or you're not making the Bible relatable. You're preaching King James. You know what I'm saying? And so, that's one of the things, like, even the students that I bring, they're like, yo, your pastor's so cool. Like, she's so, like, she be cracking jokes in the pulpit. Like, you could do that, Miss Brown? I'm like, I'm just saying, like, church should be a place that you enjoy going.
Right.
Yeah.
Relative.
You know what I'm saying? When I look at all the stuff that I'm going through now, like, I can't wait till Sunday.
Right.
To crack with Queese, or, to see somebody else, or just to be in the midst of support and people that don't even realize that they're supporting because they're there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that until pastors are ready to break their ego and say, hey, I need help, bring some people in.
Sheep beget sheep. Yep.
Come on.
You understand what I'm saying? Until you're ready to bring some people in and say, okay, hey, this is our plan. This is what we're thinking. Now, we can also take some of your ideas, but you can't, that antiquated thinking, of 3 people came to Sunday school and $4 on that little board. You know what I'm saying? That's we got to move away from that.
You messing now. That's my grandma used to say, you messing now.
We got to move. We have to. We got to move
But
away
you
from
know
that.
what? Think about Christ, okay? Think about Christ establishing this New Testament church, all right? If you do your work, the disciples were young.
Very young.
Yeah, very young. Much younger than him.
Yep, especially
he was
Mark.
just 30 when he started. But he says, upon this rock, Peter, I'm going to build my church. He talking about a church that he wasn't even going to be physically present to see built. which tells me Christ himself even had enough sense to keep the future around him.
That's good.
And I don't care what nobody say, you ain't gonna have a church that's gonna live if I don't see no future in your church, which is some young folk.
That's it.
And I ain't saying you gotta make church cool to attract them. But what I'm telling you is, if you gonna have a future has to be present.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of us miss it. I tell the millennials, this y'all church. Because it is. Like, I'm building your church. Like, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I probably won't even be around to see what it would really can become in some seasons. And then I won't be around that long, like doing this here. You know, it'd be somebody else. I'm just saying, you need to know.
I get it.
When it's time to move on.
Right.
You know, and a lot of people just holding on to something that sometimes, let me say
Because they ain't
this,
got nothing else.
and I know this really gonna hit it. Some of you, what's wrong with your church is you. Leader, pastor, you need to go.
You out- yeah.
You need
Yeah.
to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to
But
let
it goes back to
somebody
what you're
else.
saying,
Let
like
it go.
not
You know,
having a
come
vision.
into- yeah,
like
there
if
you
you
go.
don't have a vision, like so what do we just here?
And all you're doing is watching other churches
And, oh, I'm gonna
and
do that.
mimiking
Yeah.
what
Oh, I'm gonna
somebody
do that.
else is
I'm gonna
doing.
do that. Oh, that look
Identity,
good.
You know what I'm
identity,
saying?
identity,
And you know,
none.
you're just mimicking what other churches are doing.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You don't really have no vision. You don't really have
Right.
a vision for this or for that. But you see somebody else doing, ooh,
And
that's
you
a good
just
idea. Let me do that. Or, ooh, is it? You know what I'm saying?
And I think also
you know.
churches have a culture. And I think it's so important for the pastor to know what the culture of your church is. You know, and once you can tap into that
That is
culture,
so true.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's the whole thing they're saying about Donald Trump now. That because, you know, he came out with these sneakers, that black people, the black culture, like, oh, okay, yeah, like we're gonna vote for Donald Trump. You know, because he had, you know, what do you call it? A mugshot. He's like, now all the black people identify what it's like, you know, I can identify with the black, because he's identifying with the culture.
Yeah.
He thinks he
He
is.
thinks he is.
Yeah.
He thinks he is. But I'm saying there's a method to that madness.
Right.
Imagine tapping into, it's like a whirlpool and you tap into it. Now you know what the culture is. Now I can feed the culture. And the more I feed the culture, the more it's going to grow. Because if I'm growing, other people are going to see me go, hey, what's been going on with you? Like, you've been acting. Oh, well, you know, I've been going to church. Oh, okay, well, can I come to church with you?
Right.
That's how, you know what I'm saying? So you're evangelizing without even having to hand out a tract.
And that's also part of that responsibility to go into the world. Like the church, to be honest, the church is for the believer, right?
Right.
But we go out into the world to preach the gospel, to tell a dying world that Jesus saves. And when we tell them Jesus saves, then we say, come and fellowship.
Right.
But it's not.
It ain't that.
It ain't but you got all these different, and also I personally feel that churches need an HR department because
Come on. You finna,
Come on, you finna hit
you
a-
finna tap into
yeah.
a vein right there, that one right there.
I feel like churches need an HR department, an HR professional to come into their ministries to help them, to help them really identify culture, identify diversity and equity and inclusion opportunities, be able to identify areas of gaps where inequities exist between how they handling people, you know, because whether you know it or not, everybody wants to feel like they matter when they come to church. Everybody wants to feel like they matter when they come to church. If there is some missteps, right, in leadership, then that needs to be handled by somebody that is not in leadership. What is it? The ecclesiastical group. Like, you need an administrative side and you need an ecclesiastical side, right? And so that administrative side
is
needs to
so
be able to
good.
handle those behavioral issues, because you can at the end of the day, there has to be some types of action that needs to be taken, and some type of accountability that needs to happen. And it not to say it needs to happen in front of everybody, but it has to happen.
Right.
Something has to happen. You need somebody that's going to teach you how to treat, if you're large enough to have employees, you need somebody in there that know what employee relations is. On a seriously speaking, you need an HR person in ministry to help you facilitate your ministry in such a way where people ain't gonna be leaving feeling like they've been dogged out and treated.
Wow. That's
me.
true.
That's so true.
That's the way I feel.
So
and
true.
I also feel like HR gonna be the love that the people need to experience.
Because HR is advocating for the people.
And HR actually finds the balance between doing what's in the best interest of the organization and what's best interest of people. That's a balancing act. That's a juggling act that people that are responsible for leading and feeding the sheep don't always have. It's not always
because
there.
their viewpoint is
viewpoint is
different.
different.
And that's what I was telling
you
you.
looking at me
Do
the
y'all
side?
remember that from the last meeting? I was talking about how it's so important that every leader, and I know now it's this thing of I don't counsel down. I don't counsel down. Okay.
What does that mean?
No, that's a thing now. That's a
Tell me
thing
what
now.
that mean. I don't
You
really
know,
know
like
what that
if you a
means.
pastor, nobody can correct you but a pastor or somebody who's over you. Or yes, that's a thing now. And this is what I'm saying as a pastor. I believe every pastor needs a Nathan.
Amen.
Every pastor needs a Nathan. Now, Nathan came in with an HR approach because he brought it to David like a parable. And he got David to be disgusted with his example. Wow. And then out of David's discussion with it as his example, he made him see himself without disrespecting him. But this is the thing. You as a pastor, you're not going to be effectively able to lead if you don't ever trust no sheep's viewpoint.
Right.
Wow. You got to have a sheep that's in the fold that you trust that can tell you something, because when you become a leader, your viewpoint is from a different vantage.
It is.
Right.
You're only going to see certain things because you're not down here anymore.
You ain't down with the people.
So you can't see it. Not down here like low.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying.
I know what you're
You're not
saying.
in the fold.
Right.
Yeah.
You're standing back.
Right.
So you're only going to see certain stuff. You got to be able to trust somebody that smell like sheep to tell you what's happening down there where it smell like sheep.
And the sheep
You
gonna
got-
present a certain way because you in leadership. So you ain't gonna get it no how. Even if you try to get down there with them, they still gonna present.
But look how Nathan did
Come
it.
on.
Because Nathan
Let me
still
tell you the story.
understood I'm a prophet.
Right.
But
Yeah.
this the king.
Right.
And the king has the ability to make decrees that everybody in the land is subject
Come
to,
on.
whether they like it or not. So because I respect David, and even in his sin, I honor him. Even in his sin, I know his anointing. I know how to approach him. Let me make David disgusted with the character in my story.
on.
And so when I make him disgusted with the
Listen.
character in my story, then when I turn around and I say, but that's you.
Right.
Now David can't stop being
can't stop.
disgusted.
He
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Thou art the man. That's what he told him. He said, thou art the man.
But first, what did David?
You the one.
David told him what should
Kill
be
him.
done to that kind of man.
Kill him. He need to die. He
And
need
then he
to die.
turns around and said, you are that
won.
man.
Thou art the man. That's what the King James Version said. Thou art the man. That's what he said.
Listen, y'all, right here, and thou art the man. We're going to take a break. All right? We'll be back in just a moment, y'all. All right, y'all. We back. Now, I'm going to pick up to what we was talking about on the break. And I was just talking about pastors, but I was just saying that, another thing as leaders, we have to learn to not take ownership of people. We are not owners, we are managers. These are people God has entrusted us with. They're not your people, they're God's people, right? And that is so prevalent when we see Moses. You think about it now, every time that God would get ready to punish them, Moses would beg God not to. God would hear Moses, he will honor Moses and not punish them. Then it gets to this point where Moses becomes frustrated with them. And God tells him to speak to the rock, and instead he hits it. And it's at that moment that Moses' problem was, he felt like because he had advocated for them so much that they belonged to him. And God had to remind him in that moment, I don't care how much you advocate for them, they're not yours.
Not at all.
Now, since you have handled this moment as if you own them instead of as if you manage them, it has cost you walking into the promised land.
Because they mine.
But because I love you so much, I'm going to give you a sneak preview.
Right, I'm gonna let you see it.
But your foot won't hit the ground because you took ownership of what I only gave you to manage. And as pastors, as leaders, we have got to understand that. When we understand that these are not my folk, we'll be careful of how we correct them. We'll be careful of how we treat them. We'll be careful of I don't care, you can say the hardest thing in love. Now, don't get me wrong. There are sometimes some situations will call for you to sting. But that should be very few and far between. Everything can be done in love. It can be done in love. I don't care what it is. Now, some people, you can wrap it in all the love you can wrap it in, and they're still not going to receive it. And it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with their ability to just receive themselves. It's amazing how many people can't see themselves. You know, leadership on down. They can't see themselves. You know, and when God calls you to introduce them to themselves, because everybody else in their life has tolerated them. And then you force them to face something. You know what I'm saying? And then when somebody don't want to face that, I mean, it just is what it is. And I know, you know, church hurt is a real thing, but leadership hurt is too. And I don't think we ever really talk about that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is not out to get you, hurt you, get something from you. There are still real, authentic leaders. And you know, when the one or two bad ones makes it difficult
for the real ones.
For everybody else. So let me ask you this. You know, you were talking about, Quisa, you gave a stat about how they were saying, okay, we all were forced into virtual church by COVID. Ooh, God. What I tell you, we was wanging it. But God blessed us.
Yes, he did.
He blessed us. But you said now they're saying statistically, now we're in 2024. Now we need to reevaluate if that's even needed.
Right.
So how do you all think like the pandemic affected social media, you know, far as going live and all of that with church? And do you think it's time for us to shift out of that? Like, where are we as it relates to social media, church, all that stuff like that? Do y'all think people are taking church seriously now, or is church just a game? See, I see it, you see it from the vantage point of what you experience. Like people say, oh, young people leaving the church. I don't see that at TPC.
Right.
I see young people that's excited to come to church. And it's like we're drawing more young people than anybody. So I guess it's you speaking from what you experiencing.
I don't know. I think the pandemic it forced people to change. You had no other choice but to adapt.
Right.
And those who didn't adapt, they closed. And have
I would love to hear the data on how many churches closed.
And have not been able to reopen. And they haven't been able to reopen. Now, one thing, like I was thinking that when you were talking about that, I like, cause I'm on during service, like I'm on live, you know, typing or whatever. And at the max, it may be 34 people. But then when you look at the Monday, we've had over 600 some odd views. So I guess like that's the data that needs to be looked at, you know, and not just how many views you have, but how long are they watching? Because doesn't Facebook tell you how long they watch? See, that's the data that you take into that room and say, okay, look, this is what we're looking at. Like, because data
that's that HR.
Data doesn't lie. Right. The numbers do not lie. And so I don't know. It just depends. It's based on the data. I know for me, I can't do virtual church.
Right.
Because see, I'm doing virtual church. I'm cleaning. I'm doing virtual church. I'm playing Bubble Witch. You know, I'm doing homework. So like I got it on, but what it's become is white noise.
Right. Right.
but I can say that I went to church. So, and then it doesn't become effective at all because all I did was I could have been listening to Erykah Badu. You know what I'm saying? So I think church is effective, but I definitely think that we need to revamp and look at what the data is saying. What can we do to make it different? Like, do we need small groups? Like, are our small groups reflective of what our people need? Kind of like what you were saying. Like, are we meeting the needs of the people?
Where are the gaps?
Where are the gaps? You know what I'm saying? Is it more than just millennial men and women, and singles? Like, do we need one solely for single mothers? Do we need one for recovering addicts? Do we need one for people who are coming up out of lesbianism and homosexuality? Like, what do we need that's specific to the needs of the people? Yeah.
How do you think that, what do you think we can do or should be doing to get the younger generation, next generation, young people, millennials, Gen Z, all of those into the church without watering down the gospel or without watering down, I guess, what the worship experience really truly should be? Because we don't want to have worship service and we rap in every service.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Or, just so we can, how do we present God authentically without watering him down?
I think our responsibility is to do what the Bible says, and that's to lift him. Lift him. Do what it says do. Just let's try that, right?
Yeah, just lift.
Let's try that. Let's do our part. What is our part?
Yes. And what
our part is not to draw. Our part is to live. He gonna pull him.
That's good.
He gonna pull him. He gonna do it.
What does lifting look like?
And it looked like authenticity. Whatever God gave you in your ministry, what the vision is, what is it? Do the vision. Do what he said do. That's what it looked like. It's authentically doing what it is that he gave you to do. Not looking at what everybody else is doing and copy. Because I don't care what nobody say. Copying don't ever work.
Right.
It don't ever work. I don't care what it does.
It doesn't work.
It does not work.
Not
what's very palatable is authenticity. People can sense it. People can they can sense it. They can sense it. And that's what a draw.
Yep.
What does lifting look like in your ministry?
Right.
Because it may not look like it.
What does it look like in your ministry? What is it? What is it? What does it look like? Because somebody like me who been in the way a long time, y'all done picked that up from somewhere. It don't even feel.
Right. It don't feel authentic.
It don't feel as a visitor coming in.
It doesn't feel authentic.
I can sense if it's real or not.
That's the word I thought about.
Oh, that's good.
I can sense if it's real. And that's what's going to draw. In this day and age, folks attracted to real.
Yeah.
Identity.
Yeah.
Folks attracted to authenticity because that's what's going to sustain you.
Yeah.
You can't sustain no copycat. Copying, you can't, that's not sustainable.
Right.
Because you don't know what the whole thing looked right.
Right.
You copying what you seen, not what you know. You copying what you see, not what you know.
You copying ingredients when you didn't see the mixture. You're copying ingredients and you didn't see the mixture.
You don't know what went first.
You don't know how much of it was used.
You don't know. You don't know.
Wow.
You don't know. And that's why that is not sustainable. But when folks see, that's why folks was attracted to Jesus.
Yep.
It was different, fresh, real, authentic.
He wasn't coming talking all this foolishness.
Trying to impress.
He was telling stories.
Yep.
He was telling stories.
Life applicable.
Life applicable. That's the point.
Life applicable.
Talking over folk head.
And they were applicable to the people because they were about sowing seeds. They were about farmers.
Fishing.
It was about fishing and shepherding and,
their everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were they dealing with?
Right.
Because let me tell you something, because this is counselor. Meet my Maslow hierarchy of needs. If I'm hungry, listen,
Yeah.
you ain't meet my basic needs.
Right.
And I said, you didn't worry about nothing
Yeah,
else.
because everything else don't matter.
It don't matter.
Which is why the miracle of the fish and the 5 loaves even happened.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was like, okay, they done sat here with me all day listening to
You
me
folk
teach.
hungry.
They hungry.
Let's
And
find some fish.
he also had a relationship with the Father where he knew, listen, I know who he is. I know what he can do. And I know what he gonna do through me. And so what I'm gonna do, we gonna bless it. Now he like my pastor in California said he wasn't passing out.
Let's go ahead and fry some of that whitening.
He said he broke it. And it never emptied out.
Right.
It wasn't that. It
It's
And
like,
he wasn't making it
here
rain
you
with
go.
the fish.
Here you go.
He wasn't making it rain with the bread.
Supply
He
was
broke
meeting
it.
demand.
Yeah.
He blessed it, broke it, and gave, and just kept giving.
Mhm.
Kept giving. He was feeding them. And they stayed.
Wow.
Feed
When
the
I'm
people.
coming, if I'm hungry, feed me.
Feed me. Because I ain't going to be.
Don't tell me how cute I am if I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Feed me.
I am, meet the need.
If I'm homeless, help me get a home.
Help me.
There you go.
Have a knack or
Meet
workshop
my
at
need.
the church.
Yeah.
And also, you praying for influx, but what you gonna do when they get there?
There's.
What is the plan
That's
to
so good.
to accommodate the influx? What we doing? Vision.
I'm telling you, every time we institute a different system, we see growth.
Wow.
Because God is not going to give you what you're not,
What
what
you
you don't have the
Prepared for.
capacity to manage.
Right. That's
Cause
good.
what you gonna do when they get there?
To be like, hey y'all.
And then you can get them, but how you keep them?
How you keep?
I used to cry tears as a young girl. When people would give their lives to Christ, I would cry. One part was because I was happy. The other part was how they gonna come back. I'm concerned about if they're gonna come back. And I didn't understand that now, but now that we're talking about it, I was always concerned, did we have what it takes? And that's why I say again, it goes back to that HR consultant thing you're talking about. Because like Sunday, I felt those tears come down my eyes again when people gave their lives to Christ. Why? Because we're able to focus. Because sometimes you can get so caught up in your mind, in the other part of what church is or just churching, that you forget that this is the main. And when you say this is the main reason why we're doing this, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to be shook back to that point, and I think that's what the church is missing too. What's the reason why we're doing this?
Why?
You know, we're not standing up to see who can do the next run, who can, that's one of the reasons why I stopped going to concerts or emceeing concerts, because it would be just
A show.
it was, you just stand there to just see who gonna do what's next. There's nobody being saved, and that's what changed my whole mind of doing it. It wasn't about them, it was me. I heard God say, "What fruit is coming from what you're doing?"
Wow.
And that made me just, I had to stop I disappeared because I'm emceeing everybody's concert. I'm there shouting it, everything, but there was no change. Like you said, going to church, but there was no change happening. So now I had to go back and look and see, what am I presenting?
Yeah.
What am I giving?
All right.
What am I doing to contribute to what his plan is? That more sheep come to the flock. So we got to get back, and the HR thing will take the responsibility where it needs to be so that we can focus on what the most important part is, and that is the drawing. Because think about it, like Sunday, did you even get a chance to preach? And it was authentic, it was real. Nobody made up anything. And these people, like, that kind of stuff just drive me when somebody can literally go in and they didn't need no music.
Right.
Did you see that?
They didn't need nobody
Just
to clap for
on
them.
rededicating her life, and I didn't even preach. All I did was have a chat.
I just thought about
Yeah.
something in scripture where the fig tree, Jesus cursed the fig tree because it was not demonstrating its authenticity, and that means to bear fruit. You look like you was good for food, right? He looked like it should have been. It was the right season. It was the right time of year when the fig's supposed to be sprouting. And this tree, based on the season, based on where it is, climate, temperature, everything, this supposed to be bearing fruit. So you mean to tell me you got all of this available to you and you ain't bearing fruit? Okay, so now you cursed. Same thing with what's going on in church. You looking like you supposed to be bearing fruit. And you unproductive. You ain't feeding nobody. You is a fig tree. Right? Where your figs at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You is a fig tree. Where's your fig? And we in the right season. Whenever they grow, because I don't know, I ain't agriculture. But whatever they were supposed to be doing at that particular time of year, they weren't doing.
Mm-hmm. But in that particular scripture, it literally says that it wasn't the season for figs. It says, but he asked part one translation says he desired it.
Yeah.
That's what it says. He desired it. Look to the tree that's supposed to be producing it, and it didn't there. But it said it wasn't the season. So it seemed like it was unfair for Jesus to curse. But this is what people don't understand is everything in earth is supposed to obey him.
Obey him.
So I don't care if it was summer, winter, spring, and fall.
Yeah.
When he desired it,
yeah.
it should have
He
produced.
said it looked like it was good for food.
It looked like it was good. Right.
What do you mean?
Right. Which means that when he desired something from it, it shouldn't have been restricted by a season.
Right.
Wait a minute. I'm finna run.
I mean, it really should.
I'm finna run.
And it literally says, when you go on, it says they went on their journey. When they come back, the tree was dead. But this the thing, Jesus didn't never even look back at the tree.
Mm.
Peter tells Jesus, that tree that you cursed is dead. Jesus didn't look back on it. You know why he didn't look back on it? Because he knew it was
He
dead.
had already made a decision.
When he said it was going to die, he had to look back to see if it did what he said. He went on because he fully expected what he said to come to pass. Right? So him cursing the tree dying wasn't even for him. It was for the people that was with him to see.
Jesus.
You understand the power in what he could say, and it be manifest. Like, you looking like you producer, you look like it's a good time, you look like you got what it takes, and you ain't done nothing.
Because shouting and everything.
Come on.
Taking
put
laps.
Them up, put them down.
But ain't changed.
The same way. They leave in the same way they came.
It's not changing.
You look like you good for food.
That's what we're missing.
Yeah.
As churches in general, church should be a place of change.
Yeah.
It should be a place of change. It should be a place that should make you want to be better, get better, do better, not whipping you into it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But presenting it to you
To give
in
you a
such a
voice,
way.
to make you be like,
You know
this
what?
is I want.
That makes you develop a taste for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when you make people see that to live for God, to be in God, is not to lose, but it's to gain. Now, a lot of people won't come to church. A lot of people won't do church because they feel like to do church is I'm giving up more than what I'm gaining.
Yeah.
Wow.
And until we can present God as the greater gain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Presenting God as a great. That's why I'm so big on, first I'm gonna be myself, but that's why I'm so big on we're not gonna be boring. We're gonna laugh.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I say the things for shock value on purpose.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we're not going to be in here and not laugh.
Right.
Who told you church was boring?
Yeah.
Who told you it's supposed to be boring?
Right.
Stiff neck.
Right?
Right.
That's
Right.
not it.
That's
So
not
we're
it.
my thing is trying to present him in a way that makes him desirable
Yeah.
to people and not as whipping people.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Wow.
Because that also doing church in that way gives the person coming in the assumption that I'll never measure up. That I'll never get there.
Mhm.
So I don't want to. So it's not desirable
Right.
because that's not something I believe
Right.
I can ever
Yeah, that
become.
is so true. My father, and I'm going to end on this. June is going to give us our question of the week. My father, who's 72, I believe, 72 years old, has joined our church. And he was like, he told me one day, he said, I love TPC because number one, I don't have to dress up. This is what a 72-year-old said. He said, I don't have to dress up. He said, and it's not boring. He said, it's so exciting.
He be over there just
He said,
smiling
like,
and
you just
laughing.
don't know what's going to happen next. But that's from a 72-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
And even also, my thing now is trying to create an environment that speaks to every generation. That, mama can get her hymn in.
Yeah.
The children can get the Moroccan in. You understand what I'm saying?
got
That
you.
presenting a buffet style
Yes.
that ministers to multiple generations.
Yeah.
And we ain't just crunk for the young folks, but the older people not getting anything.
Right.
But, that's why we got to throw them hymns in there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got to make it, palatable for everybody.
For everybody.
And then it's a job.
Yeah.
It's a job. But if you call to it,
Yeah, you got
you
the
can't
grace
be
to
a
do it.
pastor and not be a strategist.
All right.
There's no way. You can't be a pastor and not be a strategist. I think that's the mark of a pastor. You got strategy, baby. You figures it out.
Yeah.
What we need to do.
What is
And then you
wrong?
place people around you who good at what you're not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's so important. Place people, because you're not good at everything.
That's it.
Right? Place,
you
make
can't
sure you have
do
people you can't
everything.
and you shouldn't be for one
Right.
thing
Yeah.
doing everything.
Right.
Right? So I'm grateful. Juna, what's our question of the week? Because y'all know we continue this conversation after the conversation. Juna?
Good or bad, how have you contributed to the world's perception of the church today?
Say that again.
Good or bad, how have you contributed to the world's perception of the church today?
Wow.
That's heavy. Yeah.
Very.
This one on you. Hey, y'all. We enjoyed y'all so much. We so glad to be back.
Yes, sir.
And
Season 2.
catch us
Seasones dulces.
in the lounge. Now, her lounge, that is. Bye, everybody.